Hi, everyone. Welcome to 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Liza Florida, and today we've got an incredible guest. Brandon T. Adams is an Emmy Award winning producer and host of the TV series Success in Your City. He is a podcaster, speaker, inventor, advisor, crowdfunding expert, and media expert. Brandon is a serial entrepreneur, owning a stake in a number of businesses, including the Accelerant Media Group, Live to Grind, Young Entrepreneur Convention, Success in Your City, and more. So, welcome, Brandon. How are you
I'm
today?
doing amazing. Thank you for having me on the 8 Billion show.
Thanks for actually being a guest on the show. I'm super excited to talk about so many amazing things you've done just this year. So,
Yeah.
you've launched The Road to Success
Yep.
in September, and then you've also launched Success in Your City.
Yes.
And you all did that this year.
So, Success in Your City technically launched at the end of last year, but it's been more full throttle this year with the book. It's been a crazy launch, but it took 2.5 years before even getting that launch. Like all the work behind the scenes. Like it's been cool this year because the book came out, episodes released for our show. But we started on this whole process back in 2017. So it's like
Right.
all the work we did to get to this point, and then now we get to experience the fun of it, you know?
Absolutely.
It's been quite the journey, but it's cool to see people's reactions from what we created and how it's impacting people.
Yes. No. So, would you like to take us down the road of how you came up with the concept of Road to Success?
Yes, the road to success. I'll go back to Success in Your City, how it led to the road to success. And it all started on a beach in Puerto Rico. You've been
Oh,
to Puerto Rico, right?
I actually have. Yes, I have been to Puerto Rico. I was like thinking about it. Yeah.
It's a beautiful place. It's my well, at the time Samantha and I were just dating. We weren't engaged yet. But we went to Puerto Rico for her birthday, so June 9th, 2017. We're sitting on the beach, and one thing she'll tell you, like, I like to mastermind. Like, we'll brainstorm ideas about goals and everything else. And we happen to have a couple pina coladas, so we're drinking a little bit. Best ideas come from pina coladas or tequila or something like that. And so we're sitting on the beach, and I said, "What are we gonna do next?" And I just got done with a high-level training called MITT. I went through some very deep self-development stuff, and I had this kind of like, I don't know, I felt like a new person. I was ready for something new. And so I said to Samantha, "What are we gonna do next?" And we're just sitting there brainstorming. And I always had this idea in my head that I wanted to travel the country. Back in 2015, I remember telling somebody, I'm like, I want to live in 12 cities in 12 months. And it was a crazy idea, but it's like, wouldn't you love just live in 12 different cities around the country and just experience life? And so I said, what, Sam, why don't we live in 12 cities in 12 months? And she first thought like I was crazy. I'm like, well, maybe that would be cool. She thought maybe. And then we have an pina colada. And then, oh, yeah, let's do that. And then I happened to throw in, why don't we film a TV series on it?
Oh, you just threw that one
Yeah,
in.
and to give you background, like that wasn't my first TV show. I had already done a show called Ambitious Adventures. But, the feedback that came from the show was they loved the show. It was a travel entrepreneurship show. But it was me and another guy, two guy co-hosts. And one of the feedback the network said is, man, we'd love if there was a guy and a girl, especially a couple. Like you look at Chip and Joanna Gaines. I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity for my girlfriend and I to go create a TV series and travel the country. So somehow, after a couple more drinks, she was convinced she would do that. And so, like most people, they get an idea and then they have a few drinks. They say, we're going to do this. They go home and then nothing happens. Well, we went home back to Florida in the time when we were living there, and we started brainstorming and planning out this trip. So we had a Google Doc and we just said, okay, where do we want to go? And we started looking on the map and we started putting all these cities. At the first 12, 13 cities we had put down were like Salt Lake City, Utah, Seattle, Washington. We had Madison, Wisconsin. These are all ones we didn't go to, by the way. Then like Austin, Texas, California, all these different ones.
Okay.
And so that was a start, putting all these different things down. And then we're starting to think, okay, how are we going to fund this? Like, how are we going to generate revenue? Because you have to figure out, you're creating a show, you're traveling the country, how are you going to monetize and actually fulfill this? And so we're thinking about, okay, how are we going to fund this, and then how we get sponsors, and then, okay, who's going to be the camera guy? So we actually thought about having a camera guy live with us for a year. That was originally what we were going to do. And we're like, that could be weird because then they're always with us. And then it's like, how do you get somebody to commit to that? So all these different things. And then, so what we did is we said, okay, we're going to do a mini trip. And we were going to go to some of the cities we had planned for a tour. And we actually did that it was end of September throughout October of 2017. So like 3 months, what is that? So June, July, August, September, 3.5 months after we had on the beach,
Okay.
we actually did a mini trip.
Okay.
And so we had drove from, at that time, where were we at? It was Iowa we went through Denver, we went all the way to LA.
Okay.
And then we made our way to Scottsdale and around. And so we were speaking to these different cities, like we were going to different cities speaking about our vision. And at that time, it was actually called Success in the City. We had to change it 5 months later for trademark reasons, but it's called Success in Your City.
Okay.
But so the whole concept was we're just going to travel the country and help other entrepreneurs in their business. So just a thought for people to know, when you ever go after something, it's not all going to be right at first. Just start throwing stuff out there, brainstorming. And so we were still trying to figure out what was the clarity of what we're going to do. And so then we ended up leaving Iowa, or we had a home in Iowa, and we left our home December 27th of 2017. And that was day one of leaving our home and starting our trip around the country. And so we did this, and we got to our first city, which is Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay.
We got there, and so we started to find out what the concept of the show was going to be. Instead of like helping all these people, which it was helping them, it was going to be Samantha and Brennan are on this journey to travel the country and figure out the meaning of success before they tie the knot in marriage.
Okay.
So in between like the idea stage and leaving, I proposed, by the way, because I'm like, if I'm going to travel the country with this girl, she's going to be my co-host, like I better propose.
Right.
Which I already had planned on in some format. But so we started filming the show. We did Scottsdale, Arizona. The first city was with Shea Hillenbrand, the baseball player, who went from 2-time All-Star, 20 million in the bank, to leaving the game, buying a zoo, losing everything, living out of his van, and then like having an epiphany and then making his comeback. So we got to learn what success meant to him. And then we went to other cities. And so what happened is we never got to the 12 cities, which is fine. I mean, I'm all about shoot for the stars, land on the moon. I'll tell you, 12 cities, 12 episodes would have been, I don't want to say impossible, but like for us taking it on, I don't even know what we were thinking. But we got 6 cities, 5 that we filmed in. And so we created season 1 of Success in Your City. And so that was the beginning of it. And where the road to success came in is after we filmed this series and experienced all this, and I always knew we'd write a book on the experience, I told Sam, I'm like, we got to write a book on it. So then what we did, usually the book comes first, by the way.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, because I was going to say, did you always know you were going to write a book?
Always knew we were going to write a book. I took some notes, which I could find on my computer, like notes I took along the way that were kind of journals and stuff. But I had intended writing throughout the whole year and like having the book by the time the year was done. Never happened. We had so many obstacles and stressful things. I didn't focus on the book. I was focused on the show. So besides a few notes, journals that I put down, we didn't actually write the book in the year that we traveled. It was a year later, less than a year later, that we're like, okay, we should write a book on this. So then that's when we wrote the book. And so, yeah.
This one.
Yes, the road to success. How to achieve success in business, life, and love.
Yes, absolutely. And this goes way into detail about a lot of your travel adventures and is that an adventure you would call it? An adventure of a lifetime?
We share everything. I mean, my wife talks about how she was going through depression for a while. I share how we almost went bankrupt. Like we almost lost everything. I share how the obstacles we had while traveling the country. Everybody thought we had it figured out. We're traveling, we have our own show, we're successful. In reality, we were going through some of the toughest times and I almost wanted to quit. Like I was like thinking to myself, is anybody going to watch this fucking show? Like, is anybody going to watch? And I had no money. I'm putting all my money in this show. I'm like, does anybody care? I think we all as entrepreneurs have those moments in our life where we ask ourselves, does anybody care about our product? Does anybody care about what I'm doing? But what we'll find out is when we do actually push through with something, you eventually see the people that do care.
Yes.
And it was so in the book, we made the decision, both of us, her and I, that we felt it was necessary for us to share what really happened. Most books, like they'll give you obviously all the wins and the successes and try to share all the tips and how you got to achieve your success, which we do share that, but we also share how it is hard. And also we share everything that went wrong. And
Yes.
most people aren't willing to share that. Hey, we're filming a show and we almost lost everything. Or, hey, I was dealing with depression during the process, or whatever it may be. And I think that's the part that so many people love about the book is it's so real and authentic, and so many people can relate to it. Like, we're just real with it. This is what it took.
Yeah.
I think if more of us did that, share the stories we least wanted to share, the more impact we would have on people.
No, absolutely. I saw that. No, and I thank you. And I even told you, I think a few weeks ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I got through that whole chapter where Sam talked about her whole experience
Yeah.
in relationships. So Sam, if you're listening to this, I just want to say kudos to you for your bravery and your courage in sharing that. But you guys definitely have to pick up this book
Oh,
because it was absolutely amazing.
yeah, shout out to my wife, Sam. She inspires me. I mean, she shared her experiences. People read the book. She shares how she went through a relationship with domestic violence and abuse and everything else. And the reason why she shares that is to let other women know, like showing where she came from and how she was broken at one time. And now, like, she's made a transition and got this show. We wrote a book together, bestseller, but also she's empowering other women. And it's to inspire other women out there that no matter what you're going through, you can get through it. There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
And so her story, I mean, as she shares, and people will see here soon on the show, she talks about her whole story. And it was very difficult, as you read in the book. It was hard that week filming for that.
Yeah.
Because she was sharing everything that happened to her and all these emotions came up. She called off the wedding. She's like, she was pissed at me. She was mad. She's like, we're not getting married. I'm done. But it was just emotions coming up. And it was because of the emotions she shared that she didn't share before about her past.
Right.
And I found out in life as a video producer and telling stories that the stories we least want to share are the ones we have to share. I feel not only is it therapeutic for the person doing it, but also you're empowering other people because whatever your story is, I guarantee you there's thousands out there that are going through the same thing you have. And if you can share how you overcome it, it can help them overcome it too.
Absolutely, because that's actually the premise of 8 billion is to show that everyone has a story. And sometimes it's those forks in the roads, it's those decisions that you make that change sometimes the trajectory of where you're going to go. And sometimes you might not even know when you're starting. So like I was again, like you were saying, in the beginning, you had some type of premise and mission, but it had to like evolve, right?
It evolved a lot.
A lot. Because, okay, now going back when you guys had made, so you went to Puerto Rico and you said you had 3 months to prep for this. Like if you read the book, you'll know you didn't how did you get the money to do all of this? And
No, I mean, that's the thing. Like when we did this, at first, I'm like, okay, we're going to have sponsors lined up and our budget's going to be this, and we're going to get them ahead of time and it's going to fund this and all that. Well, it didn't happen that way. Like, it's very difficult to get sponsorship for a show that hasn't been shot yet.
Okay.
Especially if you don't have millions of followers on social media. And it's very difficult. And so what we did is when we did that mini tour before the actual show, we went to these cities and spoke, and that helped find people. And then we actually ended up we went to the premiere of the movie Think and Grow Rich: A Legacy that I had produced. While there, somebody that was actually in my mastermind had came to the premiere, and we had a conversation, and they said to me, "Hey, why don't you come to Arizona? It'd be cool if you came here and filmed here for the show. We'll do a dinner meeting and introduce you to our network in town." It was a network of real estate agents. And so literally less than a week later, we drove to Arizona and I spoke in front of about 40 people and shared our vision. I said, if anybody involved as a sponsor, let me know. That dinner meeting led to the sponsorship for the first episode.
Wow.
So that was how we funded the first one. So like we were like just getting as we went, and beyond me also funding as we went too. So that's how we started off first, and then every city was different. Like it was different obstacles, different, and it ended up coming down to like me just really being the number one sponsor. But it was worth it. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. It was definitely like we were jumping out of the plane, and I was putting together the parachute as we went the whole time.
So okay, because you're an amazing crowdfunder, and
Yes.
I've had many conversations with you about how crowdfunding is a good skill, like a skill set
Yeah.
of yours. Did you not know? I mean, obviously, when you read the book, you'll learn of Brandon and Sam's challenges sometimes, right? Did you know it was gonna? Was this this venture, was that the? Were you learning how hard it was to
To do along the
crowdfund?
way.
Yes.
Yeah. So like you think of crowdfunding, so you can put up a video on a page like a Kickstarter or Indiegogo page, and you create a crowdfunding page. And I have done that for a show I did called Ambitious Adventurers. And so for this one, I didn't do that, but technically I was crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is raising money from a crowd.
Right.
So that's, I mean, it's no different than like pre-selling a product or sponsorship or whatever. And so I thought I could raise the money easier than I did. But the difficult thing was, again, that it was a concept that wasn't proven. We had the idea for a show, but yeah, it wasn't proven. And it wasn't until the second episode that we filmed that we really understood what the show was. So we were trying to figure it out. But when we edited it, we made it all synchronized, and it turned out well. But really, it took a couple episodes before we realized, okay, this is actually what the show is about. And here's how we're going to succeed. So we had to do a couple things. Like your first episode you go film, no matter what series,
Right.
you're still figuring out. Any major show you look at season 1 of 10 that they do or whatever. They were just trying to figure things out. They were putting things out there to see if it worked. And obviously the ones that got renewed, it did work. And for us, we were trying different things. And after we got a couple episodes in, we started getting our flow, not only as co-hosts, but also as how the show was seen as, but also how to find the locations, how to fund it, and all that. So we had to break through the barrier. To answer your question, I didn't think it was going to be as hard as it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was really hard. It was difficult, but any great thing is going to be hard. So
Right.
we learned a lot.
Well, no, I feel like I know Sam because I read this book, but was it hard to convince her in the beginning, like without like having all of this money to actually go on this 12-city tour?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Like-
I told her we would have always have it figured out, and I always believed that in my mind. But then once I said that, all these things hit me. Like I had to buy a business partner. I had an event that went wrong. Like I lost all this money in different because I had a business in the background while doing this, but I was fully committed to this. It's like all these things happened that I had not expected,
Mhm.
but they happened. So it was hard because Sam's like, "How are we gonna pay for this, Brennan? How are we gonna fund this?" And like there was one time the crew flew in. I'm like, "How am I gonna fly them out? Like I don't even know how I'm gonna fly them back." It was so crazy, but I kept doing it. Even my editor Carlos, he said, "Brandon, I don't know how you do it." He's like, you bring us together, we go in, and we have no idea how we're gonna pull it off, but then we pull it off, and you somehow pull it all off. And I don't know how you do it, but I'm all about just go after it and put a bunch of good people together and figure it out.
Right.
And that's what we did. And there was many times that she said, "I'm done. This is the last episode. This is the last episode." Like after the second one, when we got to the second episode, before we even filmed it, she wanted to fly home because we were at the lowest moment. And then once we got through a couple more, she's like, "I'm done." And then we finally finished it. And she's great on camera. Like she's better than me.
Absolutely.
But
Well, not better than I'm not. Well,
yeah,
you know what I'm talking
she's
about.
great on camera. She just doesn't care for it. I love being on front of the camera, but she's a natural, and so it's just interesting. And now it's fun because we can relive the moments by going back and watching the show.
Right.
So,
At which point did you know like you weren't going to make it to all 12 cities?
okay,
Is it
we
early?
knew by the time we got to the second city and got through it. So we had filmed episode 1 in January, and then February in March. We worked on episode 2, and we filmed the first week in April for episode 2. At that point, we realized 12 cities wasn't going to happen. We were going to go for 6 to 8.
Right.
And so, but then after we got going, we came to the realization, you know what, it's going to be 5. Because what we wanted to do is the last city, so we had our wedding that year.
Right. I was going to say.
So we're planning our wedding, by the way, and doing the show, and Nashville is where we were going to get married. So we just said, okay, we get married on October 13th. And so that of 2018, and we lived in Nashville September, then in October. And we said, after we film this, what we'll do is the finale of the show will be our wedding. And so that's when so what was cool is the last part of shooting for the show was on our wedding night. So so then it was such a relief because we got married, we pulled off the wedding, we filmed the finale of the show, the family, the crew was there, executive producer, all this. And then that night was like the biggest relief. It's like, oh my God, we just pulled off filming season 1. We got married in the same year. We pulled this all off somehow. We're still together. And here we are.
Married.
Yeah. So and that's why we just like, okay, and we settled. Like at first Sam was like, oh my God, like we let everybody down. We told them 12 cities and we're only going to get this many. I'm like, who cares? I'm like, nobody thinks about that. I'm always about shoot for the stars, land on the moon. 12 cities is very ambitious.
Yes.
The fact that we got 5 episodes, 5 cities, lived in 6, like most people think we're nuts because not only did we do that, but we sold our house that year. We got married. We sold everything we owned. We went through hardship. Like we did all this in 10 months.
I know. So
it's unthinkable. So nobody talks, oh, you didn't get your 12 cities. Like nobody even thinks about that.
Right. No, it's I was finishing up the book and you're talking about like in the end of Road to Success. I think it was just a synopsis. You were talking about like in 10 months, like after your wedding, like what it felt like you did all of that stuff. And I can, I was like saying, yeah, I felt like these last 10 months was like a roller coaster for me. And the emotions probably that are going through you and Sam at the time, and very much so, like for everyone, across the board, like the pandemic, this year has been an absolute roller coaster for me.
Crazy year.
I never even knew. If you asked me this time last year, I had no clue. If you told me that I was going to have a podcast and I would be live streaming, and be even sitting here in front of you,
doing an interview right now,
yeah, I would be like, whatever. But yes.
It's crazy how quickly things can change if you really want something and put your mind to it.
Yes.
And you made the decision to go after something. And as you made those few steps, progress, it started to fall in place.
Right.
And so, like, for example, what happened to you and for us, like, it's taking that first step. It's us going to that first city was a big domino effect for the rest. Like, you just got to get the forward motion towards what you want. And then slowly things start to fall into place.
Yes. Absolutely. And you've got to adjust to, change.
Got to adjust. Yeah.
Yeah. So so are you good at change in your life? Like
I am,
Jesse?
I would be considered a professional at change. And not, people don't like change. During the show and during what we were doing, we had to pivot all the time. We had to, like, there was nights we didn't know where we were going to stay. We're like, okay, are we staying here? We stayed in a hotel for a month. Right. Because we didn't know what apartment we were going to go to. We didn't even know, we go into some cities, we didn't know who we were going to film yet.
Right.
And so we had to be ready constantly for change and open to new ideas. And that's not easy. But like for me, I was open to doing whatever it took. What was hard is, I'm crazy. I'm not right in the mind sometimes. But my wife, Samantha, it was difficult because she's not used to that. And she needs more clarity on what we're going to do and a plan. For me, I was like, just go, do this, do that. Okay, we got to make a change. We got to go here. And so the hard thing with our relationship was balancing. For her, that was crazy. For me, like that was normal. And so like trying to find a happy medium.
Yeah.
While also keeping my relationship, because she's my co-host / business partner for the Success in Your City brand. But also she's my fiance at that time. So it's like, I wanted to push her as a business partner and a co-host to be the best her, especially when she said she was done or whatever. I'm not going to do that. But like, for example, she didn't at first want to share her story about what happened to her.
Right.
And I told her, I'm like, you know how many people you could help? And I knew it would also help her too. And so like there was times where I felt like, man, am I a bad fiance? Like I'm telling her to do this, but I also want to make the best show, but I love my fiance. It was hard. So it's like I was constantly questioning myself in my head. Okay, how can I be the best fiance slash business partner here and make a win-win for both sides?
Right.
And that at times, I will admit, I probably made mistakes. I probably did things that put her in a position where she didn't want to do. And it wasn't intention. I was just so like trying to make things work business wise and in my relationship. And sometimes that led to fights and arguments and all kinds of things. But we got through it. The fact that we pulled that off, we could do anything.
I know it's an incredible story. It's almost like I feel like I read a lifetime of a relationship that you guys pulled off in 1 year.
In a year.
In a year. Like how many what is that? The proposal to sending off to like 12 cities, changing that. And then
yeah, 12 months, literally exactly, because I proposed on the 13th of October and we got married on the 13th year after.
Oh my gosh.
So proposal, travel the country, sold her house, sold 99% of her things, traveled and filmed the show. So we lived in 6 cities technically. And then I sold majority shares in one business. And then I was actually going through the process of selling a family business. And then we got married. So figuring the wedding and everything. And then living our lives, like all of that in a year. We did more in a year than some people do in their life.
Lifetime. Absolutely. I was just thinking that.
At one point, we were with each other like 125 days straight.
Oh.
Well, every day. And not just with each other. We're in the same hotel room, apartment. Like we were with each other all the time.
What was that like? Anything that you didn't put in the book or in the show? You want to share one thing?
Yeah. I mean, I drove her nuts a little bit, but we went to a lot of coffee shops. We did a lot of different things. I mean, trying to think of things that I didn't put in there. I mean, we were just with each other so much. And I'll say this, we all need our own thing. Like, we all need our own thing to focus on. And I kept trying to push her to be this thing. And she was a personal trainer before that. Now she is too. But like the show was mainly to support me.
Right.
She wanted to be there for me. And yeah, she liked things but not like me. It was more to help really kind of be a part of the mission that I wanted to create. And she became a bigger part of that, and I couldn't have done it without her. So I guess a lesson to take away for anybody is in a relationship, you need to allow your partner to have their own thing and let them have their own freedom to do their own thing. And don't try to like tell them what they need to do. Be there for advice and feedback and give them your thoughts, but don't be like, hey, you have to do this. Let them decide, you know?
Yeah.
And that was my problem. I was always trying to, early on in our relationship, push her that you need to do this, you need that. It was my coaching, like business mindset.
Right.
But you can't do that to your significant other all the time. You got to let them figure out what they want. And yeah, so that was like what I did during the show. I was like, business wise, I'm like, she's like, let's have a date where I'm not your business partner. You're not coaching me. We're a couple.
Right.
And that was tough for me because all I want to do is talk about the show. Always. We would go out. All I want to do is talk about what we could do for the show.
Yeah, I know. I read many of it and how you pitched it so many times and talked to everyone. And even sometimes the reactions of, oh, what network picked it up? What network picked it up?
And we had none. And and it pissed me off. I was just like, we'd go to a hotel. Oh, what network? Like, oh, you got another YouTube show or something. I'm like, and that hurt because it's like, I had my heart and soul into this. And they're just saying, oh, you should have another YouTube show or something. It's like, dude, we have a full out crew. We put a lot of money in this show. Like we gave everything up for this. And so like when people would say that, I was just like, oh, it's so frustrating. But now, I mean, the show's won Emmy Awards. Like the show's went on, it's on Amazon Prime. It's been seen by a lot of people. We have a book with it. Like it's become very successful. And so when I look back at the moments, they're like, oh, what network picked it up or whatever it was, it always pissed me off. But now I can say here's where it's at.
Right.
You know?
An Emmy Award winning show.
Yeah, that has a good ring to it, doesn't it?
Well, you mentioned though you had you gave a lesson about relationship. What was your biggest personal development lesson between road to success and success in your city? What would you say for you your biggest growth was, or the big
lesson for relationship wise?
Well, you mentioned the relationship, right? For you personally, what was your biggest
Growth
in it?
You know, even my director said this, Sean. He said, he's like, you've changed.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you used to be all about, it was like BTA, like pushing to show, look at me on camera and all this stuff, and really up in the front, which I was. But I really became laid back. I think after experiencing all these stories and going through what we went through, hell, almost losing everything, it humbled me. And it made me realize that, man, we're just humans here. Like, we're just humans. And whether you're a billionaire or you're homeless or an athlete, whoever you are, we're all humans that are just trying to figure out this thing in life while we're on this planet surrounded in the planet and the galaxy. Like, we're just all trying to figure this out. And I think that just kind of made me look at life and like, I don't need to prove shit to anybody. Mm-hmm. I just need to do what I really want to do here. Mm-hmm. And as long as I have a good heart and mind and enjoying life, I'm a success. And so, yeah, it completely made me look at life differently and how I approach things, and in terms of just being kind of free spirited with it and doing what I believe is right, and not having to always be front and center. Like when we filmed the 4th episode, I wasn't in much of it. It was my wife. It was all about her story. And I was kind of behind the scenes. And and that didn't bother me. It was like, I want to tell these stories. It wasn't about me. It was about the people's stories that we were sharing. And so that was powerful. It definitely changed me. It made me into a different person. And it also wasn't always about the money, because I used to be just about the buck, trying to get cash, figuring out how I can generate more revenue. But then it became about just doing the best I could do. And yes, providing massive value to others. And yes, making money, but doing it in a way that wasn't just about the buck.
Right.
And so not agenda. Like I when I work at things now, it's got to be part of my vision, a contribution. It has to be helping others, but also somebody can't just be like, hey, can I hire you for this and offer me a bunch of money? That doesn't mean anything to me. Right. It has to fit in my box. And that's a freeing thing, being able to say that you can do that. And so I'm grateful. I had to go through that experience to come to that where I'm at today with that. And ultimately more money came.
Right. No, it's very true. Actually, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I had just done another podcast just a couple of days ago with a documentary filmmaker, and he is actually going to be nominated. Well, he is nominated for the Manhattan Film Festival for a documentary that he did. But I read on there a post that he had just posted this last Monday, and he was saying that he used to relish, and it's not exactly verbatim, and if you want to, you could always reference to that last podcast. But he was just saying that he would take every opportunity to be in front of the camera now, before.
Yeah.
And now that he's gone through just so much, he's okay stepping back behind the camera and allowing allowing the space for people to have the spotlight. And he's saying that even in some cases where he has some offers of, like getting, some projects, he passes it on to other people whom he knows that could probably use it.
Yeah.
And so it's true that oftentimes once you follow your passion and purpose, that in the initial stages, what might seem to be more of like what you're pursuing it because of money, when you really pursue it with a genuine heart and other things, the money just comes in. Isn't that interesting?
It does. I mean, you having a good heart and really passionate behind it, but also doing the work. It's funny how things work. It's people can sense that you really want to help them, and it's not just the agenda. They just want something from you. And when you come from a place of contribution, and more comes to you,
right?
It really does. And it's hard to explain. I don't know. It's until you experience it, and know like what I'm talking about, you won't really know.
Yes.
But it's really just coming from a place of contribution and not expecting something. Like when I go into a room, I see how I can help people. And it's not, hey, I'm going to this room and who can I get money from?
Right.
It's how can I help this person? And ultimately, I know at the end, in some format, we'll probably both make money together in some way. but I'm not going in just how can I make money from that person? I don't just dollar signs. And that's a
Right.
bad way to look at life.
It is a bad, but sometimes you have to experience it because you don't know any better, right? And
Hmm.
you're often, we're often taught like in culture and society, right? You go to school, you get a degree, you go get a job, you try and be as successful as you can. And oftentimes that's defined by money. And when I stopped doing that work, I was defining myself through the successes in terms of like how much money was being made. That's really where all the magic started to happen. When I started being of service to other people
Yeah.
and thinking of things that were beyond myself is like when all doors
Everything
opened up.
changed for you then.
Yeah, it was a paradigm shift.
It's crazy how that just small little mindset, like thought process in terms of how you look at things changes everything.
Right. No, absolutely.
There was a conversation that I had with our executive producer, Jeff Hoffman, and it was it was after we filmed the Boston episode, which by the way, we got into Boston on day one, and then by day 30, we left. And we had not only, when we went to Boston, we had no idea what we're going to do, anything. But in 30 days, we found how we're going to shoot the city. We flew in a crew, filmed it and everything in 30 days. Like it was unthinkable what we did. And so when before going to Boston, we stopped and saw our executive producer, Jeff Hoffman, for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we got done, 30 days later, we stopped and had breakfast. I'll never forget what he said to me. It changed me forever in how I look at life and business and everything. Salmon went to the bathroom, and it's just him and I. And he said, Brandon, that right there, don't ever lose sight of her. That is success. He said that no money can buy that. He said, I have multi-billionaire friends who their kids don't talk to them. They're unhappy. They're trying to buy the next biggest boat. He said, there's not a day that goes by that somebody doesn't ask me for money. And he says, I don't know if somebody likes me for me and my personality or likes me because of my money. And so I never forgot that. And I looked at, here's a guy who he's very wealthy, very successful, whatever success
Mm-hmm.
is, that's telling me that I'm a lucky guy to have a beautiful wife and that's my success.
Yeah.
And don't ever lose that. And I thought about, I'm like, wow, I'm seeing a different perspective from a guy that in the whole world would see, well, he's got all this money, and he's happy, but he's just sharing how all these people, not everybody's happy just because they have the money.
Right.
And so that made me realize, like, I need to really appreciate the things I have. So many people, they take what they have for granted. Maybe their significant other, the roof over their head, the opportunities they have in business. Heck, when they start making more money, all they do is want more. And they never stop to realize, wow, I have what I was dreaming to have 5 years ago.
Right.
And so it's the little things that we got to acknowledge and express gratitude towards. And when we do that, for one, we're happier people.
Mm-hmm.
We do end up achieving more, but we enjoy the process instead of always on this hamster wheel of success, goal, success, milestone, keep going, and then never actually fulfilling something in us. And so that changed how I looked at everything. And that made me do is, for one, really value my relationship with my wife, but also value humans
Yes.
in terms of who I'm with and how I treat them. And that's important. Relationships is ultimately what success is. People, what do they want? They want to feel like they're a part of a society. They want relationships.
Absolutely. It's the human connection.
Human connection is humans. What do we need? We need a roof over our head, clothing. We need food to survive. We want human connection and love. And ultimately, that's what we're all here striving for.
Right.
But with society and how we view things, social media, we feel like we need the accolades, we need the fame, we need the money.
Right.
Those are all things you can get. But really, these are the things we're really striving for, is having that love, having those connections, having those experiences.
Yes. No, I just wanted to say, though, it's interesting. Jeff was right, because I was actually finishing the book last night. But of course, I'm in real estate, but I was having my fair share of issues with a real estate transaction that I was having. But I said, okay, to get my mind off it, I'm going to finish up reading the book because I'm going to be interviewing Brandon. And I came across the chapter where you wrote your vows. And it was crazy. And it could have been a lot of things that were going on, But I read your vows and I started bawling. I was like, I really started bawling because I thought it was really sweet, but it was true. It was just like in the end, it was a compilation of experiences, right? This whole journey you went on, the road to success and success in your city. In the end, when you just look at it as a whole, it's life, even in general, is a compilation of experiences that you have with so many different human
Yeah.
beings. And it's your ability to, just like what you're saying, love one another, treat each other well, like have compassion for each other. Those are the biggest key markers in life that I say. That's exactly why I'm doing 8 billion. And so I'm so glad that you actually pointed that out in here. So,
It's
or here and in the
yeah.
conversation with us.
Yeah, I mean, for what you're doing with 8 billion is amazing. Like in a way, it's the same mission of what I'm doing. We're all doing
Yeah.
is impacting others. And if people just realize that it's experiences. Like, and I'm glad you brought that up. Bring up my vows. I'm like, I need to read that again. What I said, because I did write them out. But looking at life, what do we remember? We look back at the times that we experienced and think about when we were in that moment, we didn't really think too much about it. But then time goes by, like, oh, remember that time when we did that, and we cherish it so much. If we can learn to live in the moment and the journey and enjoy those experiences, and ultimately that's what we want as humans. We want experiences. And you don't remember, like, there's certain things you don't remember in your work career, but you remember those experiences you had with other people.
Yes.
And so if you can just go have cool experiences, you don't have to have a bunch of money for that either.
Right.
You know, some of my funnest times were when I was broke and figuring ways to do things for fun, and I'll never forget those moments. So have fun experiences, do things outside the box, and do it with cool people.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. Because now you are my coach for the next 90
Yes,
days in the
yes,
Success
that's right.
Challenge. Because I remember you're like, I wanted to be a coach. I was coaching Sam and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, yep, you're a really great coach. So for the next 90 days, everyone, Brandon is going to be my coach amongst my other, along with my other teammates. So it's been an amazing experience. We're about 2 weeks in. And
It's a great group of people.
It is. I've never seen my mission like move at light speed. And I remember everything leading up to it. I was like, Brandon. But then yes, it was amazing. So anyone that's ever thinking of coaching with Brandon, 110% for sure do it.
Oh, thank you. I'm very grateful. I've had a lot of groups, but I'll tell you, the group that we have now with the challenge with you and everybody else, you're all just givers. You want to utilize whether your podcast, your message to help other people. That's what I want to do. I want to take what I've learned from the show, podcasting, help people like yourself to get your message out there, because I know you're going to go on impact. You got the 8 billion. You're going to impact a lot of people in the coming years. And if I can help somebody share their story more, their message, and really show their talents that you have, that to me, no money could ever buy that. That is fulfillment.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm mission to do with the TV show. I always say, here's my rant. When I wake up in the morning, here's my mantra. Everybody has their mantra. My name is Brandon T. Adams. I am the most successful entrepreneur of my time. I will not accept defeat. I will not accept failure. Whatever my mind conceives and believes mine achieves, I will impact 1 billion lives in a positive way by December 31st, 2029. I'll do this through inspiration, motivation, education, through the power of speaking, podcasting, online education, masterminds, events, and my TV show. I have a great TV show. I am the top influencer of the millennials. Whatever my mind conceives and believes mine achieves. Whoa! I hit my chest and I do this. Whoa.
No, it's so crazy that you're talking about that. Is that similar to, what was that one with Leonardo DiCaprio and Matthew McConaughey? Right? I was doing it one morning. I was under so much stress and I was like, I wonder if this worked. So I was like beating my chest in the restroom.
It does get your energy
right?
going. This is so random and side note, but I have to mention this. I just got done with a 5-day mastermind on a ranch in Arizona. And have you ever done breath work?
Not to maybe the degree that many people have, but I have many friends that have done it in yoga and through therapy.
So I did some deep breath work. It was me and 30 other guys. This guy named Curtis is in our group, led it. And it was breathing work. And so you breathe, but you do it for
it's
like
the
an hour.
Stomach, chest, and then
you do it for an hour.
Okay.
And so what happens is just guys give you a little, you'll think I'm crazy, but I didn't believe it until I experienced it. You get 30 minutes in, your body starts tingling and you almost start tripping. Like literally like you're high for it. It's a crazy feeling. And what happens is your legs might start kicking and my hands started locking up and like I was going like this. No joke. And so what's happened is you're putting so much oxygen through your body. You're letting go of emotions. You're letting go of this negative energy, but it's oxygen going to your brain. And it was like this state of almost like a high, but people in the room were crying. People in the room were, I was laughing hysterically. I literally thought I was high. And all these different things happened. All these emotions came up and clarity. And I felt so free. I know it sounds crazy, but it was probably, I've had a lot of times in my life where I felt euphoria and happiness. I was so clear in clarity on everything. And I was so happy, but also I felt like a new human, and it was breath work. And I'm telling you, you have to do this. I don't know where this is, why I thought of this, but the breath work, it's crazy when you actually do professional breath work and breathing, what it does for you. But I felt like I let go of so much, and I don't stress, but so much negative energy, stress, or things that were kind of in my mind that I didn't need. I let it go. And it was from hard breath work. It was difficult because if you don't do breath work like that, you do 40 minutes of 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
And it went for an hour, by the way.
That's what I was just going to say. Was it, you knew from the beginning it was going to be an hour? Yeah.
He said it was roughly an hour or more, and he had music playing and he talked through the process. But once you get to a certain point, it hurts. It's difficult. You have to push through. He's like, wow, my fingers are tingling. I'm going like this. But it's like because your body is just letting go of all this stuff. And once we were done, wow. Everybody's like loved each other, hugging each other. I had so much clarity in my own journey. I was so like thinking about my wife, and after that experience happened, I told my wife we're doing a trip together in a couple months,
and we're gonna breathe together.
Yeah, like, but I don't know why I shared that, but I will get the lesson takeaway is like they told us to push through because it started hurting as we did it, and we felt like we couldn't do it. But after we pushed through, we felt much better, and it changed our life. That's in life. There's a lot of times where we don't want to do something. We feel pain. We feel uncomfortable. We feel negativity from people. We feel like people say we can't do something. But when you push through that uncomfortable state, there's a beautiful feeling at the end. And so that's how I look at life.
Yes.
Do things that scare you. Go out of your comfort zone. That trip around the country scared the hell out of me at first. When we sold our house and I left and I realized we have no home to go back to, that scared me. But I did it. And so the more we can get comfortable being uncomfortable, the more opportunities that are going to come to us.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. 110% agree, because you're absolutely right. It's always, that last podcast that I had was like, do the work, do the work, do the work. And this year I freaking did the work, and it was painful and dark road sometimes. I was like, I didn't want to socialize at one point, but oh my gosh, it was amazing. The awakening that I had. And because I pushed through in those moments and I came out, I'm all like, I have a podcast and I can speak on live streaming and I can do it, and I do it with a good heart. And
you're
connect.
Amazing at it.
Oh,
you're amazing at it, by the way. I love this interview. I mean, it's still going here for how long?
I know it's still going.
You're really good at it, and you can see your passion behind it. The best podcasters, interviewers are very curious and they have passion behind what they're doing, and obviously do their research, and you did all that. Yeah. And that shows. And as you continue to just keep putting yourself out of your comfort zone, the better you're going to become with everything that you do.
No, thank you. Because I have to admit, I was kind of nervous when we first started this, but I was just like, I think I have this. Yeah. And I was like, just stay engaged, genuinely ask questions of like interest, and then just let the conversation like flow, which is true, right?
And here we are.
Here we are.
45 minutes into whatever it is.
Oh my gosh. We're laughing and all this kind of stuff. But okay, let's go to maybe some of the lighter moments before we, reason why you wear black.
The reason why I wear black is because I've been doing it for 2.5 years. I don't have to think about what I'm going to wear. I got it from Steve Jobs. I haven't met Steve Jobs, but like his whole thing in Zuckerberg, they wore the same shirt every day because they didn't have to think about what they had to wear. And you actually waste brain power when you're thinking about what you have to wear. And I remember I'd always wear a suit or something else. So one day I made the decision I'm going to wear black every day. And I have 20 pairs of a black t-shirt from Express, 15 pairs of black jeans from Express, and then my black coat. And that's what I wear every single day. And it's life-changing. It's life-changing.
It's life-changing. So how long have you been doing it? 2 years?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And
yeah, 2 years. I started doing it during the show.
Was that when you guys like put everything together and put them in trash bags and donated whatever?
That's
yeah. Part of it?
So we went through a house and I literally found I got rid of everything. Like we were taking pictures off the wall. We were giving bags away to Goodwill. We got rid of a majority of our clothes that we didn't need. And I just made the commitment, hey, I'm just going to wear black moving forward.
Yeah.
It makes life so much easier. And yes, I wear different shirts. Like these aren't the same one every day. I switch out my people are like, oh, you wore that shirt again? But no, it is life changing.
You could get away with wearing it a few times.
Nobody knows.
Except for now.
You smell me. Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful right now in this moment for being here with you.
Oh, thank you.
This experience with this interview. Grateful for having a platform to speak to other people. I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for breathing. I'm grateful for my family, my opportunities, my wife, my show, everything I do. I'm grateful for everything I have. I really am. It's if somebody came in here and shot me today and I'm dead, I will say I lived my life.
You're good.
I'm good.
What are you excited about?
I'm excited about just keep moving forward with what we're doing with our show and our book. Keep pushing that. I'm advising some really good companies. I enjoy working with different companies. And then I guess another excitement is after we get our show out and everything we're doing here, I am doing a spinoff for my own show, which will happen. When I start talking about things, that's what I'm starting to build it in my subconscious. And so that's something I'm going to start working on come 2021.
Nice. Okay, hold on. Let me think. I've got to ask some really good questions.
You got some good ones, yes.
I do. What was your biggest, what was the biggest takeaway for 2020?
Biggest takeaway is connection with humans. Mm-hmm. I'd say that's one. Like once COVID hit and everything and we're locked down, I went from speaking around the country to no speaking besides virtually. I went home more than I usually do. I spent time with family, connected deeper with my wife. And a lot of opportunities came, and I guess making pivots. Like when you have things that don't go your way, you got to figure out how to make a pivot. And I did that. And so we should always be willing to change, make pivots. You have to, even more so when technology advances. If you're not learning to make pivots and making change, you're going to be on the bottom of the totem pole. As sad as that is, you got to make change. We got to constantly adapt.
Yeah, no kidding. Because that was the biggest thing I was worried about for 2020. When we were going all virtual between Zoom and all of those meetings, I was like, what about the human experience?
Yeah.
You know? I was like, don't get me wrong. I loved every moment that I got to spend with my son, but I was just like, well, what if this is our life? And then we just, we're going to be here. Yeah. At least we have like Acumen.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Acumen,
like,
one of the companies I do advise, and she's a part of as well as Acumen, changing the way that we educate in a phone as a projector, which is pretty epic, by the way.
Yes, super excited about that. Big shout out to Awesome.
Shout out to Awesome.
Okay, what else? It's all about asking the right questions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, of your many gifts and talents, which one would you say is your strongest skill set?
Yeah, I would say a combination of communication and building trust and a connection with other humans. I'm really good at building a trust relationship with somebody and a real, authentic relationship. And how do you do that? You do that by asking the right questions and finding ways to help other people.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's simple things. Like it was funny. I was at a meeting today, and it was with Awesome with Acumen, and a couple other guys came, and one I hadn't met before. And we got talking, and it's like kind of a simple like kind of conversation. You don't know this person, but then I asked a couple questions. I usually ask where they're originally from, and then that gives me kind of a background on where they're originally from. I try to find a connection point of what I know for that area where they're from. So the guy said today, He said, I'm from Kansas City. I'm like, oh, you a Kansas City Chiefs fan? And I said, I am too. He's like, yeah. I'm like, you know Nick Lowry? He said, oh my God, yeah. Nick Lowry is my friend. I opened up the book. He wrote a testimonial in our book. Nick Lowry's called Nick the Kick. He's an NFL Hall of Famer.
Oh, that's
one of the
right.
greatest kickers of all time. And so we had a connection there. We both were Chiefs fans. I shared an example of this legend who I was friends with. But I guess the lesson there is if you want to really build a connection, ask the right questions. Where were they from? What did they do in their background as a child? Because then you can find common ground between you where you both can relate on something that has nothing to do with business.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm always trying to do. And I really just want to learn from somebody and connect. And when you have that like high five and pound, like for a new person you just met, you have a connection that's real. And then it's not like this different conversation. It's a conversation with somebody that you're actually connecting with.
Right. No, absolutely.
So I'm good at connecting with people.
Yes. No, I would say I think that's why like live streaming and podcasting came natural for me. Because it would be the same questions that I'd probably genuinely ask if I was in a conversation with anyone. Right now it's just being recorded.
Yeah.
And broadcasted around. So
that's the power of video. That's why everybody should be doing it.
Absolutely. And you should have Brandon as a coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Have Brandon teach you. So what can we look forward to seeing from Brandon in 2021?
It's 2021. Let's get through this damn 2020. And in 2021, really excited. I'm launching. I'm actually be filming here in studio. I'm launching a 90-day challenge. It's a do-it-yourself, not one-on-one. I'm going and launching that. So I want to help hundreds of people because I can't have so much one-on-one time. But it's a way for me to help more people. I can create something once and help other people. I'm doing that. Gonna keep pushing the book, pushing the show. And then the big thing is I am already starting the process of thinking of, okay, what's next for that show?
That's what I was going to say.
And so I'm going to always be doing content at the highest level. I'm going to keep creating shows and doing it the way I want to that inspires and motivates others.
So there is going to be a season 2.
It'll be, it won't be a season 2. It'll be a spin-off that goes from Success in Your City to, I don't know the name of the show. Maybe it is Success City, but it's with Brandon. It's a different concept, kind of similar, but just me. My wife, it'll be Brandon as the host, and my wife, maybe you'll see her in the credits when she's like,
Sam's going to be a producer this time.
Yeah, she'll be a producer. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Brandon, for being this. Is
thank you. It's been fun
interview.
For everybody watching out there, dude, you got to listen to this show. Check out all our episodes. Liza is amazing. It's been great working with you so far, and excited for the future. A lot of big things ahead.
Absolutely. Especially for the next 90 days.
I know.
Super excited. Watch out, teammates.
Yes. I love it.
This is only the beginning.
Amen.
Thank you for watching this episode of 8 Billion Podcast with Brandon T. Adams. For more information on this podcast, go to our website at 8billionproject.com. That's EIGHT billionproject.com. Check us out also on our YouTube channel at 8 Billion Project and also our Apple podcast. Again, thank you for watching this show, and we look forward to having you on the next episode of 8 Billion.